Today's story: AITA for refusing to split my grandmother's inheritance equally with my siblings after I was the only one who took care of her for 5 years. Perfect. Here's your complete AITA story. Reddit post Ramathi Shola. AITA for refusing to split my grandmother's inheritance equally with my siblings after I was the only one who took care of her for 5 years. Posted by Uthrora Inheritance Semis 2 hours ago. Throwaway because my family knows my main account, and this is about to get messy. I 34 am in the middle of a massive family fight over my grandmother's will, and I honestly don't know if I'm being reasonable or if I've let resentment cloud my judgment. I need outside perspective because everyone in my family has an agenda. Background: my grandmother, Helen, passed away 3 months ago at 87. She had dementia for the last 5 years of her life, and it progressively got worse. When she was first diagnosed, the family had a meeting about what to do. My grandmother had been living independently in her own home, but it was clear she'd need increasing levels of care. I have 2 siblings, my older brother David, 30, and my younger sister Emily, 29. At that family meeting 5 years ago, we all agreed that we couldn't afford a full-time care facility. The good ones cost $7, $10 per month in our area, and Grandma Helen was adamant she didn't want to go to a nursing home anyway. She wanted to stay in her house. The 3 of us agreed to share the caregiving responsibilities. I was the only one who actually followed through. What actually happened? I moved into my grandmother's house. I have a remote job in marketing, so I was able to work from her place. My husband, Tom, 36, was supportive but stayed at our apartment because his job required him to be in the office. We basically lived separately during the week and saw each other on weekends for 5 years. It put a massive strain on our marriage, but we made it work because I loved my grandmother and felt it was the right thing to do. For the first year, David and Emily did help occasionally. David would come by maybe twice a month to mow the lawn or fix things around the house. Emily would visit once a month, bring groceries, and stay for a few hours. But as Grandma's condition worsened, they came around less and less. By year 2, I was doing everything. And I mean everything. All medication management. She was on 8 different medications with complicated schedules. All doctor's appointments, sometimes 3-4 per month with different specialists. All meal preparation. She needed a special diet due to diabetes. All personal hygiene assistance, bathing, dressing, toilet assistance, the dignity-destroying stuff nobody wants to talk about. All household management, bills, maintenance, cleaning. Managing her finances. She gave me power of attorney because she trusted me. Dealing with the behavioral issues that come with dementia, the paranoia, the accusations, the midnight wandering, the aggression. I asked my siblings for help constantly. Every family dinner, every holiday, every phone call. I begged them to take just 1 weekend a month so I could have a break. Just 1 weekend. David's excuse was always work. He's a sales manager and travels frequently. I'm just not available, sis. You know how it is. He'd send me $200 every few months to help with expenses like that made up for anything. Emily's excuse was that she couldn't handle seeing Grandma like that. It was too emotionally difficult for her. She's a kindergarten teacher, has no kids of her own, and her summers were completely free. She went on vacation to Europe twice during those 5 years but couldn't spare a weekend for our grandmother. I burnt out so badly in year 3 that I ended up in therapy. I was having panic attacks, crying in my car before going back into the house, and my marriage was hanging by a thread. Tom was a saint, but even he was getting frustrated with the situation. We postponed having kids because of this. I'm 34 now, and my fertility window is closing because I spent my early 30s as a full-time caregiver. My therapist asked me point blank, "Why are you doing this alone when you have siblings?" Her estate was worth approximately $950, mostly from the sale of her house, which sold for $720, in our hot market plus savings and investments. The will stated $500, to me, $225, to David, $225, to Emily. Various small bequests to charities. Her reasoning stated clearly in the will: I am leaving a larger portion to my granddaughter my name because she sacrificed 5 years of her life to care for me with love and devotion when no one else would. She put her marriage, her career advancement, and her plans for children on hold to ensure I could live with dignity in my final years. This is not a punishment to my other grandchildren, but a recognition of her extraordinary dedication. In it, she wrote, I know what you gave up for me. I know what it cost you. I watched you cry when you thought I was sleeping. I heard you on the phone begging your brother and sister to help. I saw your husband's sadness when he visited on weekends. You didn't do this for money, but I want you to have something to rebuild the life you paused for me. Start your family. Travel with Tom. Live the life you postponed. It felt like she really saw me and understood. The explosion, the will reading, was 3 weeks after the funeral. David and Emily were furious. I mean, absolutely volcanic. David, this is bullshit. She was clearly not in her right mind when she changed this will. You manipulated her. You isolated her from us and poisoned her against her own family. You couldn't be bothered to visit your own grandmother, but now you want an equal share of her money. You never really let us in. David, the fair thing is to split it equally. That's what family does. They've hired a lawyer to contest the will. Their argument is that Grandma was mentally incompetent when she changed it, even though we have a doctor's evaluation from that time stating she was lucid and understood what she was doing. And the lawyer who drafted it noted she was clear-minded and emphatic about her wishes. But here's where it gets complicated, and why I'm not sure if I'm the asshole. My siblings are struggling financially in ways I'm not. David went through a divorce 2 years ago and is paying child support for 2 kids. He's drowning in debt. Emily has student loans from her master's degree and just bought a house with her FIANC. They're stretched thin. I'm doing okay. Not rich, but comfortable. Tom and I have good jobs, no kids yet, and we own our apartment outright. We don't need this money the way they might. My mom, Grandma's daughter, is staying out of it officially, but she pulled me aside last week and said, Your grandmother's wishes are clear, but is this really the hill you want to die on? Is money worth losing your brother and sister? Tom is 100 on my side. He says you earned every penny of that money in sweat, tears, and sacrifice time. Don't you dare give it away out of guilt. But here's the thing, it's not really about the money for me. It's about the principle. For 5 years, they couldn't be bothered. They had excuses, sure, but everyone has excuses. I had excuses too. I had a marriage, a career, a life I wanted to live. But I showed up anyway. I changed adult diapers at 2 a.m. I held Grandma when she cried because she didn't recognize me. I sang her favorite songs when she was scared. I was there for every seizure, every fall, every small death of the person she used to be. They didn't think it was worth their time to help her when she was alive, but now they want an equal share of what she left behind. It feels like they're saying that my sacrifice meant nothing, that the 5 years I gave, the marriage I nearly lost, the children I don't have yet, all that is worth the same as David's occasional lawn mowing and Emily's monthly grocery runs. But then I think, would Grandma want this fighting? She loved all of us. Would she be sad that her money is tearing us apart? And practically speaking, if I fight this and win, I'll probably never have a real relationship with my siblings again. David's kids are my niece and nephew. Will I lose them too? Emily's getting married next year. Will I even be invited? My husband says that's emotional blackmail, and I shouldn't give in to it. But I genuinely don't know. Some of my extended family think I should compromise, maybe give them each an extra $50 from my share to make it more fair, even if not equal. That would leave me with $400 and them with $275 each. Still unequal, but less so. But when I think about doing that, I feel this rage building in my chest. Why should I give them more than Grandma wanted them to have? Why should I compromise on her wishes because they're throwing a tantrum? At the same time, a small voice in my head says, "You're being vindictive. You're using Grandma's money as a weapon to punish them for not helping." That's not what she would have wanted. Even though it's causing a massive family rift, and they're in worse financial shape than I am. Edit for clarification, since people are asking. Yes, my grandmother was evaluated by a geriatric psychiatrist when the will was changed. She was deemed competent to make legal decisions at that time. Her dementia was early stage, and she had many lucid periods. No, I was not paid for caregiving. I lived in her house rent-free, but I paid for groceries, my own expenses, and often supplemented her costs when her fixed income wasn't enough. Yes, I kept detailed records of all the care I provided, all the times I asked my siblings for help, and all their refusals. My therapist suggested I do this for my own mental health. Tom and I are in marriage counseling, started during year 4 of caregiving and still ongoing. We're in a good place now, but those 5 years were brutal on us. David's financial problems are partially due to his divorce, but also due to lifestyle choices. He drives a luxury car and takes expensive vacations. Emily's student loans are her choice. She got a master's degree in education knowing the salary prospects. The house she bought is above her budget. The lawyer fees for contesting the will probably cost them $50 each. I've told them this is stupid, and they're wasting money they claim to need, but they won't listen. Top comment 1. You justice for caregivers 1 hour ago, 12. Freak upvotes. But you suck the least by a significant margin. Your siblings are obviously terrible. They abandoned your grandmother when she needed them most, made excuses for 5 years, and now want to profit equally from her death. They're attempting to gaslight you with this "you are too controlling" nonsense, when there are presumably years of texts and emails of you literally begging them for help. The audacity to contest a will from a woman who was evaluated as legally competent is just, well, they suck hard. Your parents suck for the keep the peace attitude. This is classic missing stair behavior. They're asking you to accommodate unreasonable people rather than telling David and Emily to honor Grandma's clearly stated wishes. They're prioritizing comfort over justice. But here's where you suck, and I say this gently. You're conflating 2 separate issues. Issue 1, should you honor your grandmother's wishes as stated in her will? Absolutely yes. She was legally competent. She made her decision with full knowledge of the circumstances, and she even wrote you a beautiful letter explaining her reasoning. You should defend that will with everything you have. This is about respecting her autonomy and her final wishes. Issue 2, should you potentially share some of your inheritance once you receive it with your siblings out of familial obligation or compassion? That's a separate question with a different answer. See the difference? You can fight for the will as written, which you should, and then, once the money is legally yours and the dust settles, make a voluntary decision about whether you want to share any of it. That's your choice to make with your own money, not something they can demand. Right now you're so understandably angry that you're making this a referendum on their entire moral character and your 5 years of sacrifice. You're not wrong about any of it, but that anger is clouding your judgment about what's actually the right thing to do. Here's what I think you should do. Defend the will as written. Do not compromise during the legal battle. This is about respecting your grandmother's autonomy, period. She was competent when she made this decision, and your siblings' financial situations or hurt feelings don't override her clearly stated wishes. Let them waste their money on lawyers. Seriously, you have solid case. Let them learn an expensive lesson about consequences. Once you've won and the money is yours, take at least 6 months before making any decisions about sharing. Get out of the emotional intensity of this moment. Go on that trip with Tom. Start trying for a baby if that's what you want. Live with the money for a while. After 6 months, reassess with fresh eyes. Maybe you'll decide that you want to give Emily $25 toward her student loans as a gift, not because she's entitled to it, but because you choose to. Maybe you'll decide you don't want to give them anything. Maybe you'll set up college funds for David's kids, your niece and nephew, who did nothing wrong. Whatever you decide will be clearer when you're not in the middle of this legal battle. Stop justifying yourself to them. You don't need to defend your decision or your 5 years of sacrifice. Your grandmother already validated you in her will and her letter. That's enough. The reason I say Ash is because you're letting your very justified anger potentially damage your own peace of mind and family relationships in ways you might regret. Your siblings are way worse than you, and you're morally in the right about the will. But the all-or-nothing thinking they get exactly what Grandma said, or I'm betraying her, is a bit rigid. Your grandmother gave you that money to rebuild your life and start your family. Use it for that. Honor her gift by living well. And then, when you're in a better headspace, decide if you want to extend any grace to your siblings, not because they deserve it, but because you deserve peace. Ops reply to top comment 1. Aurora inheritance semis 45 minutes ago 2. Onek upvotes. This is actually really helpful. Thank you. You're right that I'm conflating two separate issues. I've been so angry and hurt, honestly, that I've been thinking about this as one big battle where I have to defend everything or lose everything. The idea of defending the will as written, but then potentially making my own choice later once it's actually my money and not Grandma's wishes I'm protecting, that's a distinction I hadn't fully considered. I think part of my rage is that they're not even acknowledging what I did. Not once have either of them said, "Thank you for taking care of Grandma," or "We're sorry we didn't help more." It's been all attack, all time. If David had called me and said, "You're right, we should have done more, and Grandma's will is fair, but I'm really struggling financially and could use help," I probably would have given him money voluntarily. But instead they came out swinging with accusations that I manipulated her and isolated her from them, that I'm a greedy, controlling bitch who poisoned Grandma against her own family. That feels unforgivable. Tom and I actually just had a long talk about this. He read your comment over my shoulder. He pointed out that even if I gave them each $100 from my share, they'd still probably resent me for only giving them that much instead of splitting equally. Some people can't be satisfied, and I can't set myself on fire to keep them warm. But you're right that I should let the legal process play out, because I will win. The lawyer I consulted says the will is airtight, and then make decisions from a place of choice rather than obligation or anger. I guess I just needed someone to tell me that defending Grandma's wishes isn't the same as being vindictive, and that I can honor her and still have the option to be generous later if I want to be. Thank you for this perspective. Really. Top comment 2. Westranjed family expert 1 hour ago 8. 7 upvotes. I'm going to go against the grain here and say Ash, but for different reasons than other people. Everyone sucks here because this entire situation was preventable, and all three of you made choices that led to this disaster. Your siblings suck for obvious reasons that everyone has already covered. No argument there. You suck, and hear me out, because you set yourself on fire to keep your grandmother warm, and then you're shocked that you got burned. I'm a geriatric social worker. I've seen this exact scenario play out dozens of times. And I'm going to tell you some hard truths. You were never going to get your siblings to help more by begging. After the first year of them flaking, you should have accepted that they weren't going to step up and made different arrangements. Instead, you spent 4 more years hoping they'd change, burning yourself out and building resentment. That was your choice. Moving into your grandmother's house and providing 24/7 care solo was not the only option. I know you felt it was, but it wasn't. There were other choices. Hired part-time caregivers, yes, expensive, but grandma had assets. Adult day programs for dementia patients usually covered by Medicare. Respite care services. Combination of limited family care professional help. Eventually, memory care facility when her needs exceeded what one person could handle. You made a choice that was unsustainable and then resented people who didn't make the same choice. I know that sounds harsh, but it's important. You chose to sacrifice your marriage, your fertility window, and your mental health. Your siblings chose not to. Neither choice is inherently more noble, they're just different values and different boundaries. Your grandmother should not have had to live her final years watching you destroy yourself. I know you think you did this out of love, and I believe you did. But part of love is also accepting limitations. Your grandmother's letter mentions she watched you cry when you thought she was sleeping and heard you on the phone begging your siblings for help. That means she spent her final years knowing she was the cause of your suffering. Do you think she wanted that? Now, having said all that, your siblings are way worse than you, and you should absolutely defend the will. Your grandmother made her choice, and it should be honored. You're not wrong about that. But I want you to think about something. 5 years ago, when this started, what if you'd said to your siblings, I'm willing to coordinate grandma's care and be the primary contact person, but I cannot and will not do this alone. We need to either split caregiving shifts, or we need to hire help, or grandma needs to go into a facility. I'm not sacrificing my entire life for this. Maybe they still would have refused. Maybe grandma still would have needed to go into care. Maybe the outcome would have been the same. But you wouldn't have spent 5 years in burnout and resentment. You wouldn't have nearly destroyed your marriage. You wouldn't be 34 and worried about your fertility window. And you wouldn't be here asking if you're an asshole for wanting to keep money that you feel you earned through suffering. The inheritance isn't payment for caregiving. Your grandmother didn't owe you money for loving her. She left you more because she felt guilty about what you sacrificed, and she wanted to give you something to rebuild with. Read that letter again. It's not thank you for the care you provided, it's I'm sorry for what this cost you. Here's something to help fix it. For both of you. I see this all the time in my work. One family member becomes the martyr, burns themselves out, builds massive resentment towards siblings who set healthier boundaries, and then everyone fights over the inheritance as a proxy for all the unexpressed anger about the caregiving years. Your siblings are attempting to rewrite history. The "you were too controlling" thing is gaslighting nonsense, and they're being greedy and disrespectful to your grandmother's memory. They're bigger assholes than you by a mile. But you also need to take responsibility for your own choices. You chose this path. You could have chosen differently. And the resentment you feel toward your siblings is partly about their abandonment of grandma. But it's also about your own regret for what you gave up. What should you do now? Defend the will. Your grandmother's wishes are clear and should be honored. Win the legal battle, which you will if the will is as solid as you say. Go to therapy, not couples therapy, individual therapy, and process the grief and resentment from those 5 years. You need to separate your feelings about the caregiving experience from your feelings about the money. Decide what kind of relationship you want with your siblings going forward, independent of the money question. Do you actually like these people? Do you want them in your life? Or are you only maintaining contact out of obligation? If you do want a relationship with them, it needs to be built on honesty. That means having a real conversation about what happened, how you felt, and what you need going forward, which probably includes a genuine apology from them that you're never going to get. Make your own choice about the money once it's legally yours, but make it for the right reasons, not out of guilt, not out of spite, but out of what you actually want for your life and your relationships. You're into for wanting to keep the inheritance as your grandmother intended, but you're a slight to yourself for the choices you made during those 5 years and for not protecting your own well-being better. Your siblings are much bigger odds for abandoning grandma and now trying to profit equally. But with a lot of compassion for you because I know how hard this is. Ops replied to top comment 2. Aurora inheritance MS 30 minutes ago 1. AITA votes. This comment hit me like a truck, and I've been sitting here crying for the last 20 minutes. You're right about almost all of it. I did set myself on fire. I tell myself it was noble and necessary. But the truth is there were other options and I didn't seriously explore them because I was so focused on being the good granddaughter and proving something to I don't even know who. My siblings, myself, my grandmother. The part about grandma watching me suffer, God, I never thought about it that way. I thought I was hiding it from her well enough, but her letter proves I wasn't. She knew I was miserable, and she felt guilty about it. That's not what I wanted at all. You're right that I feel resentful not just because they didn't help, but because I regret my own choices, and it's easier to blame them than to admit I could have handled this differently. I'm going to print out your comment and bring it to my therapist because there's a lot to unpack here. But I want to push back on one thing. You said the inheritance isn't payment for caregiving. Your grandmother didn't owe you money for loving her. But I also think grandma's will wasn't just about guilt. It was also about fairness and recognition. She saw that I showed up when others didn't. The money isn't payment, but it is acknowledgement. And I think there's value in that distinction. If I split everything equally, it sends a message that showing up and not showing up are worth the same thing, and I can't accept that. Not because I want to be paid for love, but because actions have to mean something, right? But you've given me a lot to think about regarding my own choices and boundaries. I'm going to take some time to process this before making any decisions. Thank you for the tough love. I think I needed it.